lecture, we will review how understanding our assumptions and prejudgments guide our perceptions, interpretations, and recall. The mind typically classifies a stimulus into a category and then access a schema, a mental structure containing knowledge about a category. Schemas allow people to go beyond the information given and make inferences, judgments, and decisions about a given stimulus. Although generally helpful, as stated in my last lecture, schemas can produce false beliefs and limit a person's interpretation of reality. Now, there are 4 things I am going to talk about: sources, accessibility and priming, confirmation bias, and metaphor. Sources are schemas come from multiple sources and are heavily influenced by culture. They are also shaped by the need for closure. In accessibility and priming, salient schemas are highly accessible and color thinking and behavior. Priming occurs when something in the environment activates the schema. When primed, schemas can influence the impressions we form of other people and might sometimes influence our behavior. Confirmation bias is the tendency to view events and people in ways that fit how we want and expect them to be. Confirmation bias helps people preserve their worldview by sustaining a stable, consistent set of beliefs and attitudes about the world. It provides an individual with psychological security, but it can also lead to inaccurate interpretations of new information. So with confirmation bias, people tend to interpret information in a way that confirms their prior schemas. Objective information may be skewed to fall into line with expectations. Schema inconsistent information may be overlooked, and our expectations may shift another's behavior towards confirming those expectations. And we may revise our views for exceptional cases, but retain the underlying schema. And in regards to metaphor, people use metaphor to understand an abstract concept in terms of another type of idea that is more concrete and easier to grasp. Now, before I continue, I just want to review some information on how we perceive and interpret events. We view our social worlds through the spectacles of our beliefs, attitudes, and values. That is one reason our beliefs are so important. They shape our interpretation of everything else. Sensation and perception are 2 separate processes that are very closely related. Sensation is input about the physical world obtained by our sensory receptors, and perception is the process by which the brain selects, organizes, and interprets these sensations. In other words, senses are the physiological basis of perception. Perception of the same senses may vary from one person to the next, simply because each person's brain interprets stimuli differently based on that individual's learning, memory, emotions, and expectations. Now, belief is the mental acceptance of and conviction in the truth, actuality, or validity of something, of anything. Belief perseverance is the persistence of one's initial conceptions, such as when the basis for one's belief is discredited by an explanation of why the belief might be true, survives. But now the question is, how do we explain our social worlds? Well, attribution theory is the view that people act as intuitive scientists when they observe other people's behaviors and infer explanations about why those people acted the way they did. So basically, attribution theory involves how people explain others' behavior by attributing it either to internal dispositions like enduring traits, motives, and attitudes, or to external situations. Thus, it analyzes how we explain other people's behaviors. Misattribution is mistakenly attributing a behavior to the wrong source. Now, people tend to explain events in terms of particular causes, referred to as causal attributions. There are 4 that I will be reviewing. First, dimensions of causal attributions. Second, fundamental attribution era. Third, a 3-stage model. And 4, effort for unexpected or important events. In regards to dimensions of causal attributions, first, locus of causality refers to whether attributions are made to an internal attribute of the actor or to some external factor from the person's environment. Second, stability refers to whether a causal factor is presumed to be changeable or fixed. And third, people who believe that attributes can change are more likely to seek opportunities to improve in areas related to that attribute. Now, in regards to fundamental attribution era, it is a tendency to attribute behavior to internal or dispositional qualities of the actor and consequently underestimate the causal role of situational factors. So first, we tend to attribute the behavior of others to internal factors. Second, we generally attribute our own behavior to the situation. And third, it occurs differently across cultures. Now, in regards to a 3-stage model, first, a behavior is observed and labeled. Second, an internal attribution is made. And third, situational factors will be considered if there is a motivation for accuracy and if cognitive resources are available. Now, in regards to effort for unexpected or important events, first, when motivated, we make the test hypothesis for causes of the event. Second, we consider the consistency, distinctiveness, and consensus information regarding the event. And third, adjust attributions due to biases. Now, self-fulfilling prophecy is something that we need to know. It is a phenomenon whereby initially false expectations cause the fulfillment of those expectations. In other words, it is a belief that leads to its own fulfillment. Please review my lecture on confirmation bias, belief perseverance, and biases in general in a prior video lecture. Now, this information about perceiving our social worlds will assist us in understanding how our assumptions and prejudgments guide our perceptions, interpretations, and our recall. In my next lecture, we will focus on our behaviors and our attitudes. How well do our attitudes predict our behaviors? When does our behavior affect our attitudes? And why does our behavior affect our attitudes? Oh yeah, that should be fun.